Back with you on the Market Day Report. I'm Marlon Bowling with you on a Monday. Thanks for joining us today. Always good to be visiting with you. We're going to take a look at your grain and livestock market activity as we crank up a brand new trading week, and we'll begin on the grain side, but we'll bring in a little extra help as well to help analyze our early market activity today. We'll go to the phones and bring in Dewey Strickler. He's with AgWatch Market Advisors in Franklin, Kentucky. Let's go to the phones right now. And Dewey is there to visit with us. Hope you had a good weekend there, Dewey.
Yeah, sure did, Marlon.
Things really warmed up in the nation's heartland, and from what I understand from the folks that I talked with on my rural radio Sirius XM 147 show this morning, it's called Commodity Wrap, and they were saying, man, the planters were rolling across the Midwest overnight.
Yeah, that's true. You've got probably we're going to be looking at our planting progress somewhere between, I would say, 12 to about 15% done this afternoon.
So that's what they're looking for. Okay, and I do want to remind everybody that USDA will release their new crop progress and their condition report at 3 p.m. this afternoon Central Time, and they'll have an update on their corn planting activity and, of course, the wheat condition ratings as well. They'll also have topsoil and subsoil moisture condition updates as well. Dewey, let's go take a look at our futures trade on the corn market and see what's going on. We have had a little bit of a weaker tone in the overnight session, and as we get into the early morning trade here today, if we look at the big board, again, there is something needs to be updated. They're having some issues with the feed out of Chicago, but I was showing there was a little pressure this morning on the corn. It was down a couple of cents this morning, and Dewey, from what I understand, we did have crude oil market activity that was sharply lower. In fact, we can show that here, I believe. The market on the crude oil was down way over $1 on West Texas crude. Last quote we had available here was the May crude at $40.35 per barrel, and that would have been down $1.15 in value. In fact, I was showing this morning we had it trading down back in the 38s, I believe, the upper 38s this morning as we got rolling here. So actually, this market has been putting some pressure on the corn market in the early going, from what I understand, and it seems like it's actually taken the soybeans from a higher start and actually kind of making them go back to near unchanged as well this morning. So what do you make of the activity in the crude oil market? How much weight will that put on our grain trade here today?
I don't know if it's going to put a lot of weight on our grains here, Marlon. I think when you look at what the crude oil has done, seems like the thorn in the producers over in the Middle East is they cannot get Iran to agree to cut their production or put caps on production. So I think it may be having just a little bit of short-term bearing in the market. I think you have to go back and look and see what is supporting the grains, and that's mostly been buying here by the funds. You had last week the funds covered about 175 million bushels in corn. They're short 905, and you had the funds, you had the trend-following funds last week. They boosted their position on their long beans up to 365. The index funds are long 760. So both of those combined, you're looking at a long position of a little over 1.1 billion bushels, which really puts a target on the back of the bulls.
So as we look forward here, Dewey, I know I've been talking with numerous analysts about this, but you look at the fact that a lot of farmers are using options, and the premiums are getting a little more expensive now that the weather premium is being built into the market. So we're going to have to watch that very closely as far as affordability on the part of the producers. Dewey, I want to take a quick little break, and then when we come back, I want to talk with you about this livestock trade and what developed in that cash cattle trade as we wrapped up last week. It'll be very interesting to see how things shape up this morning. Our special guest, Dewey Strickler. He's with AgWatch Market Advisors, and we'll be right back. Well, we're back with you here on the Market Day Report. Thanks for joining us once again. And we're talking with a very special guest on the phone right now, none other than Dewey Strickler. He's with AgWatch Market Advisors, and he's based in Franklin, Kentucky. Time to talk a little livestock market action. And Dewey, we're going to take a quick peek here at this livestock market summary that we have from last Friday. And from what I understand from USDA, the sources are saying that the trade was actually light to fairly moderate out there. We had several thousand head that sold, and we had the market range of, well, around the 133 mark, but I did hear that they actually did achieve a top of 135. That would have been $2 higher from the previous week. But a lot of the earlier trade was said to be basically about steady, so it didn't change a whole lot there. on a dress basis, it looks like we had very active trade in the northern plains region. The market got anywhere from 208, but it did firm up to as high as 216 at one point. That appears to be the top there on a dress basis. But on the cash cattle trade that did develop last week, how supportive do you think that'll end up being on the cattle trade this week?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be that supportive or not. I think it will leave a little bit of support here because you do have your June cattle are trading at a discount to the cash. And, of course, we're beginning to see weather start to straighten out here. And, of course, warmer weather, I think, will help our demand prospects. But looking this morning, you got your meats under just a little bit of pressure here. Seems like we're having a little bit of a technical trade in the market, and maybe that could be just going back to what the crude oil is doing here in it.
Yeah, I was showing a little bit ago the June cattle, live cattle, were down at about $1.50 per hundredweight. But I've heard some analysts talking this morning about the fact that they think a lot of that is driven by fund activity, and they say it may be kind of the opposite of what the funds have been doing on the grain side. What do you think about that?
I'll tell you this, any more in commodities and ag commodities, they're about 70% dominated by the funds there. So, I mean, at times you do have a disconnect with the fundamentals.
Really? Okay. But are you friendly on the hog trade? Hogs are firming up this morning, about $0.50 higher on the early going here. But the way that market has acted, man, Dewey, if you look at a chart on lean hogs, it just looks like a waterfall on the way down.
Yeah, that's right. You had a little bit of reversal in the market on Friday. We're up here a little bit today. We could probably maybe get a bounce up to 79. I just want to see over today and tomorrow to see how this hog market holds, to see whether we can expect further bounce.
Now, on the cash hog market that we had last week, it looks like nationally we were about 53 lower on a carcass basis, and we were about 48 cents higher on a live basis out there. But the Iowa-Minnesota market on a carcass basis was basically about unchanged, only down about 3 cents. And if you go to the Western Corn Belt outside the Iowa-Minnesota area, then it seemed to be higher by about a dime, but not a big change at all there.
No, there wasn't very much change at all for the week in those as far as the averages were concerned.
The pork carcass cutout values Friday were higher by over $1, Dewey. Now, on the beef side, we had the beef cutouts really rocketing higher the past week, and that was helping to pull the futures trade out of the fire. Can the carcass basis hogs, or the carcass prices, do the same thing for the hog futures this week?
They could do that. That was the highest cutout we've seen since last November, and technically we're looking at the hog market is oversold quite a bit here, and I think it's real important to see how the market trades here for the next, let's say, through Wednesday. If we don't make a new low then we might be a little bit surprised by the recovery we could get.
Really? Okay. Well, Dewey, good to visit with you once again. Thanks for all the help. Dewey Strickler with AgWatch Market Advisors in Franklin, Kentucky. Great guy to talk to. If you want some good market information, Janet, Dewey's been in the market for a long time.
Absolutely.
Well-known expert.
Thank you very much, Marlon.
You bet.